your lifestyle changes, whether it's the food you can afford, the house you can, the neighborhood you can live in, the school your kids can go to. It's so much changes between 6K a month and 20K a month. But then, you know, between 300K a month and $1 million a month, there's no difference. Nothing changes. You know, your headaches grow, that's it, but nothing changes. You don't think about the money anymore after a certain point. It's no longer about the designer clothes and the cars and, you know, that all of that you were chasing in the beginning. It becomes about legacy for you.
Hello. Welcome to another knowledge bomb episode of Lead to Greatness, where we believe in helping others reach their greatest potential and together change the world. Today on Lead to Greatness, we have Ali Horriyat. And if this is your first time, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that like button, hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of these amazing episodes. And if you're on iTunes, go ahead and rate the podcast and leave a review. That helps get the word out to great leaders and entrepreneurs like yourself. Please help me welcome Ali with Global National Charity.
This is Cedric Francis, and you're listening to Lead to Greatness.
I was born in Dubai back when it was a small town, desert city, not what you hear about today. And grew up there, went to school for a bit, and moved to Europe, did some schooling there, then moved to North America, the States and Canada, did my university, did a lot of schooling. And when I say a lot of schooling, I mean I did a couple of undergrads, 2 masters, an MBA, and I went into the market. Nobody would hire me because I was overqualified and I'd never held a job in my life because I had scholarships and whatnot through school. So I really didn't need to work, so to speak. And so I had a little bit of money saved up, and I thought, you know what, I'll do a little bit of trading. And this was about Forex because I traveled so much throughout my life when I was younger with my family and even alone that I knew a little bit about currency. So I thought I'd give it a shot. Started getting into that. Did well, you know, that's where the career path started. I didn't need to look for a job. It kind of led me into that entrepreneurial spirit. And I said, hey, I can make a career out of this. You know, I just got to get a little more organized, study a little more about this specific field I'm in now. Originally, when I started out, with my little bit of, piggy bank money, I did well for myself. And, very quickly, I got to a point where I was involved in the world of capitalism, so to speak, and I saw it in my industry, in my surroundings. I saw people were driving nicer cars, people, those things affected you. It affected your surroundings. You dress well, you go to the nicer places. Those things really mattered, and you're in your 20s at that point. So I got to a point where I could buy a Porsche, and so I did. And so when I did that, I realized the world's really different. I'm being treated differently at that point. And it wasn't a Rolls Royce, but it was still, for me, it was like, wow, look at where I am. Look at what I've been doing. And my friends started seeing this and they say, Ali, what are you doing? You're doing really well. What are you doing? And I said, well, honestly, guys, I'm doing this Forex, and I can show them. And they were friends. They're like, so you just do this? And that's what you make. And I said, yeah. And can we put some money with you? I said, sure. There are risks involved, but yeah, sure. So word of mouth got around because now these friends were buying nicer Christmas gifts for everybody and, helping other friends and family out and paying down on their mortgages a little more. So, a couple of years goes by and they're bringing in their whole families because they're from their grandparents to their parents, to their brothers, siblings, wives' families and husbands' families and all that. This is a good deal. So it grew. And this is where the problem happened. And this is how I really blew up. Essentially, the regulatory body, in the US, the FCC kind of comparable, came to me one day and said, hey, you're doing this trading business, right? I said, yeah. He said, you can't do it this way. And I said, what do you mean? They're like, this is, borderline illegal. And I said, well, why? And they're like, this is a fund and you're doing it out of your own personal account, like your checking account. This needs to be registered. There's insurances, there's laws, there's regulations. You need a license. Like, you can't just trade this number. Like, if you're trading 5, 10K, we're not looking at you. But when you're in the millions and there's that money going in and out of your account, you need to be regulated. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. Got a lawyer, got everything set up, took the course, got licensed and all of that. And it was less than a year from the time that I did get licensed that they came back to me and they were going to charge me. And the reason
Wow.
they were going to charge me was because they said I was doing too well.
Huh.
Yeah. So, again, I got a lawyer. We went to court. We didn't go to court actually. It stopped before going to court because no prosecutor was willing to take that on and saying, you're trying to bring a guy into court for saying he's doing too well. Like you have no proof. You're just suspecting he's doing too well because nobody does this well. That
Yeah.
was, the claim. And then that kind of got into the city that this person was doing so well that they came after him, but he really was just doing so well. A lot of people thought it was a fluke. So I didn't get any offers from the big boys, and the big corporations
Yeah.
to move to them. But a lot of the regular folk who were friends of my friends and people I knew and people I didn't even know, they're like, that's where we want to put our money. All of a
Wow.
sudden, this fund became, a 10, 20 million, 50 million, and just kept growing from there.
Jeez.
And that's when I realized it's not fulfilling. It was very
Mm.
fulfilling in the beginning because, travel all the time. You can work on the fly from anywhere, really. Um, have the opportunities a lot of people didn't. Meet people, different walks of life, from celebrities to whoever, and the whole scene,
Yeah.
you're just around people that you would just not be, and all the toys and everything else that the market throws at you, you're buying and you're devouring this. But there comes a time, Cedric, you're thinking, well, I had that car, I had this, I had that, and it's just not fulfilling. And
Mm.
I got to that point, and that's where, long story short, I walked away. We paid the penalties, we paid the fees that
Wow.
we had to, and closed it down. And I was left with a chunk of money. And I've said this story before. And I realized at that point that just like people have addictions to, anything, cocaine or gambling or whatever it may be, I had an addiction to money. That was my
Mm.
life. Nothing else mattered. Everything
Yeah.
was driven and purpose to that, the making of it more and more. And I realized I need to detox the same way I've helped friends of mine go through detox. I need to do that
Wow.
because I realized even as I quit and I wanted to change and do something better with my life and give some purpose to my life beyond the making of more, because
Yeah.
my job wasn't purposeful in a sense. If I was a doctor, I think I could still earn money and I could purpose some of that money towards, go to an impoverished country or, developing country and just do some free surgeries for them for 1 month out of the year. And that would be my vacation. And I could
Yeah.
take that on my own cost. I could do
Yeah.
that, right? I could bring
Yeah.
some purpose. But
Yeah.
doing what I was doing, I mean, what kind of purpose do you bring? I felt like I'm making money off the disasters that were happening. Like, oh, there's a war here, gold's going up. Okay, let's invest in gold. Oh, somebody died here, or some terrorism happened there. The market's moving. That's what I'm sitting and waiting for, because
Wow.
in security and calm, you're not making money in that industry. There
Yeah.
needs to be volatility, there needs to be danger, right?
Yeah.
So I'm piggybacking on that danger. And I
Yeah.
felt, it was just deteriorating me inside. And so at one point I realized, yeah, I need to detox from this. So basically give it all away. And it was about a little over $100 million at that point. Gave
Wow.
it away, walked away. And when I say I gave it all away, I was homeless for almost about just under 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And so train stations and all of that, spend my times,
That is
and,
insane.
and slowly started back into what I'm doing now.
Yeah. There's a thing and there's a saying that says if you understand money, you can lose it all and you can get it all back. What's your thought on that?
I believe that. And one of the reasons I'm actually happy and I'm proud of the way I reset my life is because I'm documenting a lot of what happened. And so when we do the works that we're doing at Compassiviste, which we'll get into in a minute, I'm going to show what I documented so that people can see that it's just a mindset. It's just that fear factor of daring to go after what you want when you're going after it, that winning mentality. And you just have to believe in yourself, but you really do believe in yourself when you've achieved it. I think that's what differentiates people is I was there and I gave it all away and I wasn't scared because I said, hey, I made it already. Of course I'll make it again.
Yeah.
But that first time that I made it, I didn't really go after it. It was by fluke. I
That's
said, hey, I
crazy.
couldn't get a job because I went and tried to get a job and I couldn't get a job. And then so this happened on me, right? This was my, avenue for now kind of thing until I find a job. That was my thing. Because when I first started trading, I was actually physically still looking for jobs. And it just started getting better. Like at first, first few months, I'm making, 2K a month and I'm barely getting by. I'm like, okay, it's good though, because I'm making 2K a month and I'm looking for a job. I still have my hopes for that $6,000 a month job that would, get me started and all of that. And then I started hitting that 6K and 8K and 15K. And I said, what am I doing looking for jobs in my free time? I mean, what job am I going to get that's going to give me that? Right. So
Yeah.
I quit looking for jobs and got serious here. So it started out without that ambition to go into this, whereas a lot of people go into it with ambition in the
Yeah.
beginning. So I got lucky there. But then I really pulled my way through from that, 10, 15K, and I realized this is happening. And I made it to that place where you kind of like, it doesn't really make a difference if you make more. I mean, it's really important when you're making 6K in a month and you're thinking, okay, I need to get to the 20K level because your lifestyle changes,
Yeah.
whether it's the food you can afford, the house you can, the
Yeah.
neighborhood you can live in, the school your kids can go to. It's so much changes between 6K a month and 20K a month. But
Absolutely.
then, between 300K a month and $1 million a month,
Nothing
there's
changed,
no
right?
difference.
Yeah.
Nothing changes. Your headaches grow. That's it. But nothing
Yeah.
changes. So in a sense, you don't think about the money anymore after a certain point. You think about what you're achieving. And
Right.
if you're happy with what you're achieving, it's no longer about the designer clothes and the cars and that all of that you were chasing in the beginning. It becomes about legacy for
Yeah.
you because you're getting somewhere. Because that's when all the money in the world can't buy happiness. I feel confident the second time around. I was never scared about it. I was never scared about walking away from all of it because I knew the same way I was able to organize, structure, and lead myself into that position, I could do it again. I
Ah,
just have to know what the end goal is and structure myself in a way to hit that.
my goodness.
It's all belief.
My goodness. This is good. I want to talk about Compassivist. What inspired you to begin this journey and why?
So right around the time I gave it all away, like I said, homelessness and all that, I used to always write a lot. It was my kind of letting out. And even during the times when I was working and, that high life and everything else, I didn't drink, I didn't gamble, I don't do drugs, I don't do all that. I don't have those vices, the
Yeah,
women and things like that, none of that.
it's
And
good.
so I used to go with to the point that I remember I used to go with my friends to Vegas and they were what you call whales. They get in there and they take really good care of them. And I was the one guy who didn't gamble and stuff. I had money to go, see the shows by myself and stuff, but it was boring. And so I used to come to the table and say, "Hey guys, let's go have dinner or watch a show or something." And the casino would see me. This
Yeah.
one guy ruins everything for us. He comes in, he's trying to get his friends to leave. No, they used to throw me, like front row tickets to all the show, whatever you want, Alex. Just go do it. Don't come here. Don't bother your
Yeah.
friend.
Wow.
I was the guy who used to go to Vegas and come back and tell my friends, like, "What'd you do in Vegas? How was it? Did you go to this pool party? So and so was there. This DJ was there." I was like, "No, but let me tell you about, this Cirque du Soleil show. It was really good,
Yeah.
So yeah, I had no vices. So for me, it all went into writing. I used to write a lot. And so when I quit, I got a lot into the writing to keep my sanity over what I did. Because, in the beginning, just like when you detox from any addiction, you're going into these withdrawals. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, what did I do? How do I reverse this? Like, I need to go back in time. This was stupid. And, I had these doubts in the beginning, but through writing, I kept it going.
Yeah.
And then I thought to myself, okay, we're gonna reset and we're gonna do something purposeful because the reason you went through all this and you made it through to the other side, the difficult detox period, you made it through to the other side, you're good now. And you don't want to have relapse. So you don't want to get back into an industry to make money again. And the whole issue was legacy. and purpose. You wanted to do
Yeah.
something good with your life, Ali. That's what I kept telling myself. So I said, this is where I got to think of what I want to do. And I realized the one thing that was really missing from my life, from my friends' lives, from other people's lives that I connected with, and people that I didn't even know, was there was a lack of empathy. There was a lack of compassion. Like, compassion was just so reduced in your life. It was no longer a priority.
Yeah.
And even if you did it, there was alternative and ulterior motives. I'd go to the galas, I'd write big checks and stuff, but it wasn't really because I cared. Like, I wrote to checks that I didn't know how to spell what I was writing to. And I really didn't know what the cause was. Like, there would be these specific causes and I'd give money to them. And I really didn't know what it was. But
Yeah.
it was because my friends were giving, I was there, it was an event and it's a party and everybody claps for you and all of that. So you feel good. And
Yeah.
that was the real reason. Besides that, yeah, you help here and there where you could, my friends and whatnot, but it wasn't really purposeful. And so I started thinking of compassion, and I started thinking the reason why I could never activate my compassion is because I had no channel of activation. I started thinking to myself, imagine there was, a Martin Luther King alive right around the time that I had a lot of money. That would be the activation for me, a Gandhi, a something that would say, hey, I'm changing the world. And I believe in that person. Here comes Jesus, in front of me and says, I'm changing the world. I'm like, yeah, I'm putting all my money down on you.
Yeah.
I didn't have that during my era. During my era,
Mm.
there was none of that. There's no human rights. There's nothing like that. I mean, you know, you see how we're living in North America at this point, right? There isn't any of that. Even when the disasters happened, and I say this often, instead of a Martin Luther King leader, we get BLM.
Mm. Yeah. Mm.
And that's not leadership to me.
Yeah.
Nothing changes. There's a lot of money got thrown around. Some people moved to Malibu. No laws changed.
Yeah.
No policies changed. So there was no activation. So I thought, okay, we need compassion and we need activism. And by activism, I don't mean yelling on the streets and breaking people's businesses, front windows and stuff like that. No, I mean the action within you that makes you make that difference in your life. So you got to
Wow.
have compassion, and then you got to, connect that to the activism.
Mm.
And I started looking for the word because I said, I got good vocabulary, but I can't find this word. And I speak a few languages. I'm like, I don't find it anywhere. And so I put it together. I said, compassion, activism, let's blend them. And so Compassivist, right? And it should stop at the T. Now the E is the important part for me, because I thought compassivist at first. Yeah, that's what it is. I'm a compassivist. But no, then I thought compassion. It comes from that love, that feminine power, that motherly power, that nurturing power, right? And
Yeah.
whether it's Mother Nature or whether it's an actual mother, it's that kind of love that you're trying to find,
Yeah.
to help, to guide, to lead, to protect. And so this word has got to be based in the feminine, because if you speak French, for example, just as an example of a language, or Arabic, it's got feminine and masculine in the words. So
Mm.
a car in French is feminine. It's la voiture, right? So, but in English, it's the car. It's
Yeah.
not she car,
Yeah.
So we don't have that in English. So a lot of people don't understand that. But you can give kind of that gender moment to a movement. So I wanted my movement, I wanted this compassion and the movement of it, the activism of it, to be based in the feminines,
Wow.
to be based on the feminine side, because
Gotcha.
you don't want to go into this with an MMA mentality. You don't want to go into this fighting. You want to go into this with love. You want to, even if you reach your enemy, you want to remember Jesus. You want to be
Yeah.
like, this guy got hollow nails, pushed through his hands
Yeah.
on a hot day, and he's looking down at the guy who's hammering away and saying, it's okay. It's okay. I know you're
Mm.
causing me pain. I know it must be hurting you as well, but it's okay. I understand what you don't understand what you're doing. I know that. So I'm not bothered, That emotion has to come out in you. And that
Yeah.
emotion can only be feminine, because if it's masculine, you're trying to punch the dude, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to react. You're
Yeah.
not going through the emotion. So
Wow.
that's why that last E is there, to remind me all the time that every move that I make, every decision, every choice that I have is based in compassion, and it's based in that motherly love.
Let's talk a little bit about the structure, the mission, and so what's what is it?
At its core, I explain it this way. I call it the Compassiviste octopus. And the reason I call it the octopus is this. An octopus is an animal. And if you research a little about it, one of the first things you learn about it is it's got many brains. So it's got that big brain in its big bulbous head. And then each of the tentacles has this little brain to function the tentacle on its own. And it functions within reason to, bring about the final destination or, cause that the big brain wants. And all these tentacles work together. So if it's going hunting for food, there's going to be some tentacles that are walking it towards the food. There are going to be some tentacles that are trying to grab the food. So they're all working in unison to a certain goal. And I think society needs to be like this. Society needs to be in a way that we come together, because that's how change was always made. So the octopus functions that way. You can cut a tentacle, but it'll still keep going. So I designed it in that way where, the collective is what matters. The structure is this decentralized model where we have that main head of the octopus, which is the society, which is all of us, which is Cedric and Ali and everybody else is in there saying, we want this. Whatever this is what we want. It could be environmental, it could be racial, it could be prejudice, discrimination, changing a law, because today none of these things happen unless a major corporation wants it or one of the 10 people who owns the world wants it. But other than that, we're just sitting there, watching, hoping. Then I said the tentacles need to be important. These tentacles need to drive some things in. So I said one of them has to be publishing, because we need to get the education out there. We need to, and we're not publishing, some I don't know, royal family's preference for what kind of plates or gardening they like. I don't care about that. That's got another company that will publish that. That's not for us. Our publishing is going to be, we're going to tell the stories that other people don't want to publish because they're going against the grain. We're going to tell the real stories of real struggles, the stories that don't get heard, the stories that will move you, whether it's poetry, whether it's fiction, whether it's nonfiction. We're telling those stories. And we're going to give it to the people and show the people how we gain power. Because, for example, in our publishing house, we don't take the rights from the author like all the other places. All the other places is a slavery contractual agreement. Basically, I own you. And it's the same in the music industry, right? You see all these problems. Prince, he changed his name to a symbol as in protest for what they put him through. Michael Jackson, all these big names. And you think these are big names. How are they enslaved? Like, if I was Michael Jackson, when Michael Jackson was important and big, like, how do you fall into that? But then you realize how big and powerful these corporations are. So we don't want to do that. We want to leave you your rights. We want to work with you to tell your story. So that brings the collective together. And then, we have our music arm, we have our film arm, we have our carbon labeling arm, because the environment's important. Like, if you don't deal with the environment, whether change does not matter. But what matters is it's getting hotter, it's getting colder. You're getting all these, crazy weather patterns. Some problems are happening. You need to deal to. I mean, you're in Houston. You guys had freezing, like, you had heat like crazy, freezing like crazy. Like in the last 5 years, you guys have gone through some insane weather that you've never experienced in the history of this, of the city. And somebody needs to recognize that, because there are people dying, there are people losing their homes, there are people who can't, it's just impossible. So I brought in, 8 tentacles and a foundation, a 501c3, so that we can together give and support our communities. It's because you can't always sit there and rely on the government doing the right thing with your tax dollars in any country that you are. You need to take charge of that. You need to come about and say, you know what, you want to take that $2 billion that you took from, my community here, people making $20 an hour, you took our money and you want to give it to this billionaire corporation fine, you do that. I don't care. That's the fee that I have to pay to be free of you and your corruption. But now I'm going to take my extra $2 and I'm going to put it in this bucket in Compassiviste, and together we're going to raise $50 million because there's just that many of us, and we're going to give that to do the right things for ourselves. And when we show that we're doing the right things collectively, that's when you see the difference. That's when you start saying, hey, we gave Ali $10 million, for example, to come in here and put 5 new schools, and damn it, they did it. In 2 years, they have 5 new schools up. It's registered, it's running. Our kids are going there. It's free because they calculated everything properly and the money's there. Do you not think people are going to come back and be like, here's another whatever it costs that you said it costs to put the hospital there as well? We don't need the government. We don't need to beg. We don't need to plead. We don't need to call our MPs and be like, what about that school in my neighborhood? And he says, well, we'll get to that, and they keep lying to us about, elect me this time and I'll do it, elect me this time and I'll do it, until their 4 years is over and like, see ya, talk to the next guy. So we need to take charge. That's what the octopus is about. It's about everybody get into the octopus and we're going to march. And that octopus is so big that we start dictating what the mortgage rates are. We start dictating what the insurance policies should look like.
Wow.
Because you know what? Guess what? At 50 million people, how about I don't pay my mortgage anymore? What are you going to do? Confiscate 15 million homes in a state? Do you know what's that going to do to your state? You can't do that. You got to negotiate. That's what unions are about. Unity. We need to get there. And this is what that movement's about. It's a movement, it's got its spaces. And actually, how we're establishing this is not word of mouth. It's not digital communities or any of that. We're creating conventions. So as of next year, summer of next year is going to be the first one. We're creating, the first compassion convention, because there's never been one in the world. You have all these festivals, you have all these sporting events, you have the Olympics, they have it every 2 years, winter and summer, and they spend a lot of money on it, but nothing comes out of it. It's always losses. But for a few people, it makes a lot of money, and that's why they do it. And essentially, if we harness that energy and we put it towards compassion. So we do a film fest, we do a music fest, we do an art fest. We bring in all of that life in people, all of that expression, let them express. And we bring in all these organizations in that convention space and we say, hey, put up your booth. Tell people what you're about. Tell people what you're bringing to the table in compassion. Whether you're PETA or whether you're religious, whatever you are, come to the table and tell people this is what we're about. Join us in as part of this whole movement, right? To bring compassion to the world. Let's solve our problems. And that's where we're starting. We're starting with that. You bring in the first 50,000 people to your events. I'll give you a quick example. Music. You got Taylor Swift or other people at her caliber. They have all these concerts. They're making hundreds of millions of dollars in any of their concerts of the causes that they're attached to. Like, how beautiful would it be, when you open Spotify and you see their album cover and it's this beautiful art and it says dedicated to dog shelters, for example, whatever it may be. And 10% of all the downloads is going to support this cause. We don't need we don't need charity anymore. Just this one industry giving 10% away will resolve all the problems in one country. And that's what it's about. That's what it should be about. I don't know if you remember, 1980s Live Aid, people got together for Ethiopia. Then they got together for AIDS. Then they got together for children. I mean, Heal the World, Michael Jackson, bringing people together. All that money went to helping children, things like that. That was what music was about. It was about the expression for a better world. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. It really gets me when country and rap and these music that are based in a place where hardship comes from, because they start out in oppressed communities. They start out from, whether urban or back in the plantation days, those places, that's the heart of them. The soul of them starts from those places. I mean, rap really started in New York, in that Bronx, Brooklyn, Harlem collab area. And it was a lot of roughness back then. And you listen to some of that music from back then, Public Enemy, people like that. And you're like, wow, that's deep. That's poetry right there. And then all of a sudden you got Drake. And you think, what happened? Right? What happened? Where did the fight go for the betterment?
Yeah.
And the fight went to, I'd rather be a capitalist.
Yeah.
I'd rather be in the mansion in my plane and all of those things that I really don't care. I don't care.
Yeah.
That guy can shoot the other guy. I don't care. There can be 8 liquor stores in that neighborhood where there's predominantly Mexican or black people. I really don't care because I'm not there. I'm not there. I'm among the good people now.
Yeah.
I don't care. So that mentality's got to change. Music and art's
Jeez.
got to bring that back. You got to bring that back. You got to bring the love back. That's what we're trying to do.
This is so great. Just really, really a heartfelt interview to me personally, honestly. And I
No, I
definitely,
gotta thank you, Cedric, because not just for the interview, but for the life you lead and all the people just like yourself. Because my model, this system, Compassiviste, the collective cannot work without people like you,
yeah,
because you can create anything. You can make basketball shoes, but if there's no game of basketball and there's no ball and there's no court and there's no league and
yeah,
there's not all those people who came and did this organization together, there would be no NBA. Those
yeah,
shoes would be purposeless. So I created those shoes, but I need people to run in them. Now
yeah,
I find the runners and I'm like, you're the hero, not me, because I just built the shoes that make you run a little better, a
yeah,
little more efficiently. That's all it is. That's all it's about. I'm just oiling the system for you. It's you guys. It's you and everybody just like yourself who is ready, and they give. Collectives become strong enough that when the people need to speak, the corporation and the government can't come and say, no, no, you have no right to speak because this isn't democracy. Like, who told you have the right to speak in a democracy?
yeah.
That's what they're telling us. And we're saying, okay, we won't speak. So it's you that we think, it's not me.
Wow. Ali, so moving for individuals that someone is listening right now, steps. So what can let's say nonprofit or someone that's actually, doing the work and trying to you've been looking for a community like
Mm-hmm.
this, been looking for these shoes to run in for decades. If anyone want to first, I want you to do two things. I want you to, just in general, someone want to connect with you and what you're doing, where should they go? But also I want to kind of focus also on building this movement. It's
Mm-hmm.
like if a nonprofit, if they want to connect, they say, you know what, man, this is it right here. I want to be a part of this movement.
Mm-hmm.
Where should they go? So two parts.
Okay. For the nonprofit side, and it's not just nonprofits. I want even for-profit people to be
Yeah,
involved, because there are some, really nice for-profit folk who,
absolutely.
I remember I was reading just recently, I think it was in January, somebody who had a wheat company, like Kellogg and those, but it was a family affair.
Mhm.
The owner died and he left the entire company to everybody who works there. Like, it became a co-op now.
I heard about that. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it was Red Mill or one of those companies. I forget the name. It was a mill company. Amazing person. It was a
yeah,
for-profit
yeah,
business, but that for-profit that they made was a decent amount of profit. It was not ridiculous, and it was going to the people that work
yeah,
there like a family. So
yeah,
it's all about how you feel, coming to the table here. But every corporation should consider, we're in a very crucial time that we need to change certain things about the social structures that we're in so we don't collapse.
yeah.
We need to make sure we don't collapse, and we're at that collapsing point. I mean, in the last 50 years, nobody's heard as much as in the last 2 years
It's
post COVID, for
crazy.
example. Splitting. Texas wants to be its own country.
Yeah,
California wants. There's talks of that.
yeah,
That is the beginning. That is stage one of
yeah,
danger of civil war. That is stage one. When you start talking about it, it's dangerous.
yeah,
It's like somebody start talking about suicide. You got to take that seriously, right? You
yeah,
got to take that seriously. You got to watch your friend now. You can't be like, that was just a joke. No,
yeah,
something's going on there.
yeah,
So when you talk about separations, it's serious. We need to stop that everywhere in the world, not just here,
yeah.
everywhere, right? So everybody needs to come together. Reach us. So LinkedIn at Compassiviste, Ali at compassiviste.com. That's my email. Reach out to us, talk to us. We will connect. We'll put the forces together. And so when everything's launching and the app's coming out and the world is, our world, our Compassiviste Octopus is built, you have your spot in there. You're already on the board. You're bringing your community, because that's what's important too. I'm building the space. Imagine I'm building this amphitheater and you're like, I have these amazing plays that I want to perform there. And I have my whole crew. I have all my actors, and I even have a lot of people who want to watch. I have my audience too. So Cedric has his own crew, the other person, and bring them all here. I'm building the amphitheater for us, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, reach out. Or come to our LinkedIn, reach out to us and start talking. Now, a lot of people expect your social media to be popping. You're making a big movement and stuff. It's got to be, this perfect. No. It's not about following. It's not about the social media game. It's about the action. The more I put you on social media, and the more I do all those tricks to make you, go from my TikTok to my Instagram to my website and all those things, the more I'm spending money on marketing and on becoming this ruthless business person. I don't want that. I want you to know that this community exists. I want you to know you need to be a part of this to make the changes you want to see in the world. And I want you to actively get involved. So at Compassiviste is our handle everywhere. But when you go there, don't expect, 50 hours of scrolling. No, I put the basics there. This is what we're about. That's all you need to know. You want to take the next step. It's not about the basics anymore. You need to come to the store. You need to activate yourself, right? The store is here, because we're selling compassion. And there's no price on that. It's a movement. It's your action. You come, you show up, you reach out, you go on the website, you reach out and you say, this is what I do. I want to be involved here. I want to do that. I want to be a part of this. We have all these different programs. I want to donate. I want to volunteer. I want to start a cause. Hey, Ali, you know what? I'm doing this in my neighborhood. And if I could get that bigger community involved, I think it will make a lot of difference. Great. Come here. Come here. We'll give that to you, whether we're going to fund it or whether we're going to help raise the funding for it. Whatever it is, we are going to do it. We have causes from Brazil to Africa to the US to Canada to all over the world, to the UK to the Middle East. So if you want to reach out, again, use the email. The team has access to that email. Everybody checks it, so we respond quite frequently. Go to the website, compassiviste.com, compassivistefoundation.org, compassivistepublishing.com, compassivistedialogues.com. We got lots of websites, but you go to one, we can kind of lead you through the rabbit hole through all of them. And at Compassiviste everywhere on socials. But activate, don't sit and surf. Put your shoes on, lace them up, be ready. So when you get that space, you hit the floor running. I don't want you to spend the time the way they want us to spend the time. There's no point in me and you coming together and doing this really cool post about how Nestle is a bad company because it produces plastic. No, we need to come together to stop buying plastic so that Nestle can go and make glass bottled water instead of plastic. That's the way to do it. Because they're just responding to our demand. When we're buying it, they're selling it. Now you say, well, the glass bottle is so expensive, the majority of the population can't. Yes, but that's not the way to go about it. That's when the foundation comes together. We come together as a group and we say, how much will it cost to subsidize this? And let's subsidize it at Walmart. Let's talk to Walmart, say, hey, Walmart, you know what? That bottle's $7, it's glass. This bottle's $2, it's plastic. It's a $5 difference here. We're paying the $5 difference, mark them in the same place. Let the public have the right to choose the better product so that their kids don't have to suffocate in the future.
I love it. Knowledge bombs, man. This was loaded knowledge bomb.
Education. That's all it's about.
Really, 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 really good. On behalf of the Lead to Greatness community, I want to thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule and adding value to us all.
No, I want to honestly, like I always say, thank you and people like yourself, because that's what foundation this is built on. Without that foundation, couldn't build this. This doesn't work on Wall Street. My model, it doesn't go anywhere on Wall Street. It won't even get funded from Wall Street.
Right.
It gets funded in the heart of the people who understand struggle. And that's the people who are my family.
We want to thank you for joining us today on the Lead to Greatness podcast. So remember, if you help others reach their greatest potential, together we can change the world. Peace.